We are now in the month of April and entering the 5th week since the February 28th attack of aggression against Iran.
30 days now into the Iran war, Shah.
The conflict between Iran and the U.S. and Israel now entering its 5th week.
The war in Iran now entering its 5th week.
With the Gulf region firmly within precarious times, an attack that was thought would cripple the Iranian military and decapitate its leadership has instead placed the U.S. in a precarious position due to more power being placed in the hands of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, who are effectively controlling the country at this time of war, making the critical decisions. A war led by a pathological liar. A war that was thought to end in days.
War will end in about 4 to 5 weeks. We are through that timeline, but the war is still going on. So he will have to, analyze as to why he said that in the first place.
Is now in its 5th week, resulting in billions of dollars wasted, raising the debt ceiling in the US, and worst of all, the death of thousands. If that wasn't bad enough, the Yemeni Iranian-backed resistance group, known as the Houthis, have now formally entered the war on behalf of Iran.
The Iranian-backed Houthi group announced it's launched 2 missile attacks towards Israel, marking their official entry into the month-long war between Iran and the US and Israel. Up until now, the Houthis had largely stayed out of the war, which has shook the entire Middle East and has already caused serious global economic fallout. With the conflict escalating, the group has now threatened shipping routes in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait in the Red Sea, a crucial passageway where 12% of world trade passes through.
Happy Saturday morning. The Houthis have joined the war. It's gotten more and more disastrous. Now the Houthis are going to help block the waterways and the price of oil is going to go up higher.
Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis launched missiles at Israel on Saturday, their first such attack since the start of the Iran war. The move heightens the risk that the conflict, now in its 5th week, could expand further across the region. Houthi military spokesperson Yahya Sarah said, quote, "The operation involved a salvo of ballistic missiles targeting sensitive military objectives in Israel." He added that the operation achieved its objective. Israel confirmed a missile had been fired from Yemen, but said there were no reports of casualties or damage.
A significant escalation in a region already on high alert.
The Yemeni armed forces, with the help and the grace of God Almighty, has done its first military attacks with a barrage of ballistic missiles against sensitive military targets in the south of occupied Palestine.
And with that attack, Yemen's Houthis entered the war, making this Israel's 3rd active front. The Israeli army says air defenses intercepted 1 missile before it reached Israeli territory.
Trump has responded by placing thousands of Marines and troops on the ground, threatening a ground invasion against Iran. But in reality, the troops Trump has placed is nothing more but a chess move. Trump ordered troops to be placed so as to get the upper hand in ceasefire negotiations with Iran. He had no actual plan to march them onto Iranian soil, as boots on the ground would equal coffins in the ground. Iran made strict demands, calling for the complete removal of all US bases in the Gulf, for Iran's missile program to be left alone, for Israel to stop bombing Lebanon, for complete sanction relief and financial compensation from the US, all of which the US rejected. And so Trump used ground troops to intimidate Iran into submission through a bluff charge and the idea of a ground invasion, a bluff that has gone unheeded. Iran has punished the US and Israel heavily, targeting US warships, critical infrastructure, air bases, and military outlets using new generation missiles. Israel and the US have responded with carpet bombing tactics.
Ali Larijani was a civilian politician who had no connection to any terrorist organization, and assassinate him in the middle of Tehran was an absolute kind of war crime with a violation of every international law, and no one in the Western countries has condemned this. Second thing, Israel is selling these attacks as form of artificial intelligence oriented smart wars, and let me tell you, the way they assassinated Larijani and the day after they assassinated Khatib, the intelligence minister in Iran, had nothing to do with the smart wars. In order to detect where he is, they come up with 6 or 7 different places and they bomb all of them in a blind way. So in the place that they finally found Ali Larijani, which was his daughter's house in a very kind of poor suburb of Tehran, they killed 105 people and they killed equal amount of people in 5 other destinations. So 400, 200, 300 people getting killed to get one of Iranian politicians. Yeah? And that's what they call a smart wars.
Which is why the death toll in Iran is much higher than that in US and Israel, respectively. In addition to them bombing steel plants and ammunition depots in Iran, they too have attacked civilian districts and bombed universities so as to kill military commanders where they live and work, and also inflicting maximum fear into the hearts of ordinary Iranians. But Iran has responded with fresh waves of ballistic and cluster bombs on Israel, resulting in significant damage on Israel's part.
Importantly, Israel is being remorselessly bombarded 24/7. The head of the Air Force, the head of Mossad, the Mossad headquarters, the Tel Aviv police headquarters were all bombed and destroyed just this very day.
As well as targeting US assets, Iran bombed Israeli nuclear plants and targeted US troops that led to scores of them being injured, giving Iran an upper hand in the war, with numerous victories on the ground, thereby turning the tables on the Epstein coalition, which is why, out of desperation, Israel is using AI images in propaganda videos, and US call on Iran to cease production of drones and missiles as they are losing the war they started. Gas prices have soared.
The national average for a gallon of gas is higher than $4. This is the highest in nearly 4 years, higher than any point during the president's 2 terms.
Let's start by looking at oil prices. They're rising considerably this Monday, whether it's the European North Sea Brent crude benchmark, which is above the $115 a barrel mark, or the U.S. West Texas Intermediate benchmark, both higher. The Brent actually on track to see its biggest monthly gain on record before the U.S. and Israel launched its missile strikes against Iran on February 28th.
And call the eternal conflict within the Trump administration, as the U.S. has taken and copied the playbook of Israel in fighting an enemy they created.
Well, here's what I say. Let's get the real history in. You know, I listen to people like Congressman Lawler in New York. They all love to go back to 1979, the day the Ayatollahs took over. They conveniently don't go back to when I was alive. I'm a little older than them. Let's go back to 1953, shall we? When Iran had a Democratic elected president, the United States didn't like him, we pulled a coup d'etat, and what did we do? We stuck the authoritarian dictator, the Shah, in power. That's when the I Hate America started, was way back in the 50s when we interfered in their democratic elections. But how convenient we are that we forget that. Then in 1979, what took place? The Ayatollahs took over, who were probably worse than the Shah. But let's remember, the hatred of America was started by America. It was not started by the Iranians. We interfered in their government way back in the 50s and overturned their democratic elected president, and then the dictatorship started with the Shah and now went to the Ayatollahs, and here we are today. But I'd like for Congressman Lawler to at least try to go back in history from before he was born to see what could have occurred, and that the United States was the person that caused the hatred between the two countries.
There would be no Ayatollah or Islamic Republic without the US, just as there would be no Hamas without Israel.
You know, Hamas, if you look at the history, you'll find out that Hamas was encouraged and really started by Israel because they wanted Hamas to counteract Yasser Arafat. And you say, well, yeah, that was better then and served its purpose, but we didn't want Hamas to do this. So then we as Americans say, well, we have such a good system, we're going to impose this on the world. We're going to invade Iraq and teach people how to be Democrats. We want free elections. So we encourage the Palestinians to have a free election. They do, and they elect Hamas. So we first, indirectly and directly through Israel, help establish Hamas. Then we have election. Then Hamas becomes dominant, so we have to kill them.
So are you saying Benjamin Netanyahu deliberately boosted Hamas to try to prevent a Palestinian state?
Yeah, sure. He deliberately and systematically even told, on record, whoever wants to avoid the threat of a two-state solution has to support my policy of paying protection money to the Hamas.
So what we did, with the permission of our Prime Minister, is to let Qatar to transfer a huge amount of money in cash, probably more than $1.4 billion. By doing it, we increased the power of Hamas. We did everything in order to make sure that Hamas will go on controlling Gaza, and Palestinian Authority will control the West Bank, so they will fight each other.
Netanyahu maintains the Qatar money was to avoid a humanitarian catastrophe. Having helped to build up Hamas, Netanyahu has now vowed to destroy it.
He fed the beast, and it exploded in our face. If you base your national security strategy solely on force, then you need to win 24/7 forever.
More wars are coming for us all in Trump's unwinnable war.
Okay, but do you think America was justified in joining Israel in the attack on Iran?
No.
Why
Absolutely not. Because we started the war. I'm not for starting any war. We fired the first shot. Plain and simple. You want to put it in Rambo terms? We drew first blood.
We sacrificed 168 beautiful, innocent school kids, the best kids. Tremendous sacrifice. Nobody does sacrifice like we do. We did it for you, sir. Believe me, Val, it's huge.
More. I want more!